Our second speaker today is Alessandro Grimaldi. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Alessandro has been a programmer since 1983 and a VBA developer since 1998, sorry. For several years, he was consulting for the United Nations in different countries like Italy, Afghanistan, North Korea, Ethiopia, and Austria. And he's created dozens of office applications for them, from simple automation tools to corporate level multi-user tools. Those were Oracle-based applications. And since 2014, he's lived in Frankfurt and has worked for 5 years as a VBA developer for the European Central Bank. So thank you, Alessandro, for joining us. And all right, go ahead.
Okay, I can share it now. So, well, first things first, let me thank Maria and you all for having me here today. So today we're talking about TTS, which seems to be a rather obscure functionality that can be implemented in VBA. And of course, we limit our talk to Access. In other applications, the thing is different. For example, if we use Excel, which I already opened here, we have a specific method in our application object, which is speech with 2 or 3 methods, among them speak. So we can pass a string constant.
Hello, everybody.
Everybody. And we can hear it spoken by the default Windows voice. We can also pass a range here, for example, V8.
Hello, everybody.
And we hear the voice again. This lady has no speech impairment, as it may seem, and she's not tipsy either. It's just an Italian voice speaking English. If I give her an Italian sentence.
Salve a tutti.
Yeah, the pronunciation is much better. Though I'm not sure you can appreciate it if you don't speak Italian. Anyway, we won't go into details with this Excel feature, of course. The point here is that Access doesn't have this method. If we go to Access, and we try to run the same method, we don't find it. It doesn't exist. So to implement TTS in our Access application, we had to work a bit more. Now, David already anticipated half of my presentation, but hopefully I'll be able to add some more details. Some of you may know, sorry, that every now and then I publish some free to download VBA pills on my YouTube channel. You can search my name. Yeah, this is me. And in the playlist, you will find these VBA pills playlist. They were meant to be short, extremely short VBA snippets whose main purpose was to stimulate other people's fantasy, nothing more than suggestions, curiosities, and so on, rather than full applications. One of them here, number 17, I published in March 2021, was Make Office Talk, which implements one possible solution. That's to say, a standard Windows API library, the same David already showed us. So this is the file you can download from there. The interface has a text box where you can enter the text you want to be read aloud. I have a sample text I found on the web. The first thing I found, okay. And a few buttons to change the volume, to change the speed, and to start, pause and resume, and stop the reading. There's also a combo box to select one of the voices in the computer, and this is the hardest part. Let's pick up David for now. So I can start the reading.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure for me to be here tonight and address such a great audience. Like to bring up threatens the prosperity and welfare of the whole nation.
Faster.
However, the majority of the population tends to ignore it and pretend as if it is not a problem at all. Namely, I would like to talk about the risks of
Slow
obesity.
it down.
First of all, it would be reasonable to present the statistics that some of you might find shocking.
I can pause it and resume
They
it.
are in accordance with
and I
data.
can stop it. Then there is a class which acts as an intermediary between the form and the Windows library. Since I discovered VBA classes several years ago, I always use classes in all my projects. Basically, they are an invaluable and extremely powerful tool for the kind of things I do. And this is another case when a class is a brilliant choice, because I can import this class in any other project and have TTS immediately available. So the class is almost trivial. Where is that? As David already showed, I create a variable of type SP voice, an object which is exposed by the library. I create it when the class starts and kill it when the class is destroyed, or better, an instance of the class is destroyed. And this object holds all the methods and properties we need. Some more details on the library itself. The library we're talking about is called Microsoft Speech Object Library, as David already showed. But you'll probably find more than one. There should be another one. Here it is, Microsoft Speech Object Library again. But this one is SAPI One Core DLL. The other one, the one we need, is SAPI DLL. So we're going to see in a few minutes what this distinction is about. Again, the class starts creating the object and killing it when it terminates. And the rest of the code is really very easy. For example, the volume, here it is. Speech exposes this property that we can set a value from 0 to 100. So what happens when I click this, the software button on the interface? I decrease the current volume by 1, multiply by 10, and pass it to the class method. And that's because I decided to give the user a 1 to 10 range rather than a 1 to 100. The same goes for the louder button, and even when the user enters a value manually in the volume text box, plus the obvious checks on the input. Speed works exactly the same way, except that it goes from 0 to 255. When I click on the slower button or the faster button, I change the current value by 1 and pass it to the where is it? Yeah, and pass it to the class property. Starting, pausing, resuming, and stopping from the user point of view are quite simple as well, as David already showed. Speaks the text when we want to start the reading. Pause switches between pause and unpause when checking if the voice is or is not speaking using this other method here. And stop shuts up the voice when we want to stop. Of course, this is my this is the interface my class provides to the user. I thought that shut up is somehow funnier than a more canonical stop. The class work to handle this event is just slightly more complicated because there are some flags to set. For example, here for speak, I use flex async, which forces the library to read the text asynchronously so that other commands can be issued in the meantime, and purge before speak, which this is not really useful here as there is one voice only, but if you have more than one, this flag should prevent an overlapping of the two voices in case you start the second before the first has finished. There are many other flags here, but I haven't explored or tested all of them. Pause is just easier, just pause, just like resume. And when I press the stop button, I empty, I use this flag here to empty the buffer again. Otherwise, the voice would go on reading until the end of the buffer. This is something we can see, we can test. If I start talking,
ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure
and
for
try
me
to
be
stop,
here tonight and address such a great audience.
it doesn't work anymore.
The issue I would like to bring
As
up
the
threatens
text
the
has already
prosperity and
been
welfare of the whole.
The text has already been put in the voice buffer, and the voice won't stop until the buffer is empty. So the only complicated thing here is the list of available voices. To understand how this works, we must take a look at the Windows registry. So let's start the register editor. And there are two keys we're interested in. The first one is this speech one core. If we drill down to voices and tokens here, we see the voices which are available on this computer. Generally speaking, a token is an object representing an available resource, such as an audio input, or in this case, a voice. More voices can be installed via the language settings. Now I'll open the language settings. I'm sorry, this is all in Italian, but it should be clear anyway what I'm doing. We select a new language, for example, German. We don't need the handwriting recognition, and we don't need the speech recognition. So we can install this German package. It should take a few seconds to download the package and install it. It's taking longer than I expected. Okay, initializing, downloading. It shouldn't take this long. Well, maybe with 19 people connected, the band is reduced. Okay, downloading, installing, and it's okay. So if we go back to our registry and refresh with F5, okay, now we hear three German voices, Hedda, Katja, and Stefan. Let's leave them here for a moment and take a look at the second involved key, this speech here. Again, let's open voices and tokens, and we see a different set of voices. The German Hedda has been just added with a German package, but what happened to the other two voices, to Katja and Stefan? Well, as far as I know, but I'm not an expert on this topic, when you install a language package, some voices are made available system-wide in this speech section. The others remain for internal use, for example, for Cortana. If we navigate again the settings to the vocal assistant, and we try to select a voice, we see the full set of voices taken from speech one core. But in our application, we only see the reduced set, the subset stored in speech. So let's take a look behind the scenes of this combo box. In the form load, okay. What happens here? As you can see, the combo is loaded using the getVoices method of the class and returns a two-dimensional array whose items are shown. The method is nothing more than a wrapper around the getVoices method exposed by the API. This method returns a one-dimensional array with the registry key full path. And in fact, this is it. This is the voice it reads. It takes the input from the speech registry section, the system-wide available voices, not the speech one core, the full list of voices. So these are the voices available to access. What if we want more voices in our app? We can do that with a bit of editing of the registry. Let's say we want to use Katya, okay? So the first step is to export the key, right-click, export, give it a name, for example, Katya. Okay. Then we need to edit the registry file. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, here it is. So we can edit the file. It's on the other screen. Now, I don't dare changing any of the settings here, but you can try if you want. I only change this speech one core and turn it into speech. This occurs in two positions, here and here. Now we can save and close, or close and save, whatever. And now we double click on the file to run it. We confirm that we are willing to mess with the registry, and we are done. Okay. Going back to the registry, we see immediately that Katya has been added to our speech section. So if I go back to my file and run again to reinitialize the combo, now I have Katya available. What else? I think that this kind of reg files can be downloaded from several websites, even though I would do that. Messing with the registry is already dangerous enough when you use reg files you created. Trusting someone else on this matter may be lethal. Last thing to note, if at some point we uninstall the language pack, we uninstall, and this is very, very quick, and refresh again our registry, we see that the German languages have been eliminated from the general language repository, as well as the Hedda voice that was automatically added to the system key. But the voice we added manually, Katya, is still there. So keep this in mind if you want to fully undo your changes and to completely remove a language pack. Well, this is it, I guess. I don't think I have more to say on this topic. So again, the VBA pill can be downloaded for free from my YouTube channel. This is the Microsoft webpage about the API we just used, if you want to get deeper in it. And this is another page. If you need more information about the registry, this can be a good starting point. I'll paste the addresses in the chat window for your reference. And that's it. So if there's any question, I will be happy to take them. If they're not too complicated. If they're not too complicated, because as I said before, I'm not, and I won't pretend to be a TTS expert. So if there's any question.
Thank you so much, Alessandro. I didn't see any specific ones that I noticed in the chat, but please feel free to either post there now or unmute yourself and ask the questions directly.
That was brilliant. Go ahead.
Sorry, Derek. My comment, only comment in the chat was that you could, if you consistently use that scaling code, you could move that to your class so that the class would then offer 1 to 10 functionality for every application that used it. Otherwise, you have to copy that code into every.
Yeah, sure. But again, this is just this was. Yeah, well, yeah, but this is the programmer choice. I mean, my choice was to provide a 1 to 10 scale. Your choice may be different. So, but again, this was meant to be just a VBA pill. So a suggestion, an invitation to go deeper into the topic.
So the actual speech gives you 1 to 100. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Library. Okay.
Can I say, I thought it was fascinating because
talking about the volume.
I know a lot of people have asked about why, you've got this speech, you've got these voices, but you can't get them to work in Access. And now we can see there's actually 2 different libraries there.
Exactly.
One of them works with one and one works with the other. But never before has anyone gone as far as Alessandro has.
Exactly.
The
second one,
one to the other. Sorry, Alice, go for it.
Sorry, I'm having some problem with the connection. You're coming broken. Can you repeat it, please?
I was having the same problem with you. I felt myself talking over you, and I didn't mean to. Beforehand, I've not seen anybody illustrate the 2 as clearly so that you understand it's not, because people think speech, but it's not actually speech. There's 2 speeches, and that was clearly identified. Access can only use one of them, but it's the lesser of the 2. But you also illustrated how you could, if there's a particular voice that you like that's available in the operating system, but not to Access, how you can quickly and easily make that available even to your Access code.
Yeah, not only Access, any application that can use text-to-speech, text-to-speech. Because these. Yeah, sorry, just to make it clear, this set of voices here is available system-wide to all applications that can use the text-to-speech. This other larger set is reserved for the system, again, Cortana or other internal applications.
And that's what so few people understand that differentiation. And I've had so many times people ask, oh, well, why can't it do this? And I've not been able to answer them, frankly. But now I can answer them. Oh, well, that's because there are certain things available to the system and others that are available to what would we call a library, I suppose, a text-to-speech library. But that's not only made clear, but also a solution to that for those frustrated that they can't use some of these other voices which they feel ought to be available to them, but aren't. So that's brilliant. I'm very impressed with that.
Can I just come in on this? Remember, there were 2 speech libraries, and if you use the other one, Speech 1 Core, then you would have all of the voices from the Speech 1 Core library tokens. They're the larger list. And in fact, all the new voices that Microsoft is adding now, they are adding to the Speech 1 Core library. But I do the same as Alessandro. I use exactly the same older library as him because I prefer the commands in it. And I do exactly the same with copying, exporting the voices for my Translate and Speak app, for example, exporting and then re-importing to the other library. So there's 2 ways of doing it. I do the same as Alessandro, but you could use the other library and, if you prefer, the code in that way, save yourself the effort. So it can be available to access, is what I'm saying.
Do we know what methods that library?
Yes, I didn't try that. It might be this. Exactly what I was saying. I didn't try that, but it might be that second library has different methods.
Commands. It does.
Might
it
be.
does.
It
does, and I used it in the past. I haven't used it for so long, I can't tell you what the differences are, but I will go back and check. I have got an example app which uses that instead. Don't know why, but I did. I think that was the first one I tried and then swapped over.
Okay.
That's very interesting to know.
Well, I'm glad I was able to give you some new information.
Yeah, the other place that the Speech One core library is used is in accessibility. Basically, what we were talking about earlier with David's, that where people actually want to have everything read to them. The narration feature, that's the phrase. But because of my Translate and Speak app, I was frustrated by the fact that I could see there was something like 45 languages available. And even after I installed all of them, I only had 14 of them in access. And I spent ages and ages trying to work out what it was, and eventually did exactly the same as Alessandra has done. Although I did find a helpful post on Stack Overflow that told me that's what I needed to do.
It looks like Eric has also posted a link to a Microsoft Learn webpage about speech itself. And I assume, I don't know if you want to unmute Eric and tell us anything about that. I assume this maybe has links to the libraries someplace in it.
It does, and I actually kind of I did a little tangent into Azure and came back to that page. Interestingly, I think it implies that the SAPI and the Core 1 libraries are perhaps being, if not deprecated, at least put into the legacy mode as they move to this Win32 model that they're doing. I just opened up the Speech SDK 5.1, and it actually has an SAPI.chm file. So I'm not exactly sure what's in that SDK. It says you can now use Win32 Speech API, SAPI, to develop speech apps with Visual Basic, ECMAScript, and other automation languages. So it kind of sounds like maybe they're pushing to move to this Speech SDK versus the Windows libraries that we've been talking about today.
Interesting. I wonder what Excel uses natively. Be an interesting question for the Excel team.
It's the same. Sorry, it's the same commands.
The same.
So therefore, it's the same. It's the older SAPI library.
Okay.
Eric mentioned the CHM file. I think CHM is a help file.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Harriet's getting a 404 on Alessandro's second link.
Let me check. That's the...
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. What is that? The structure of the registry? No. Is the API. Okay. Let me try again. No. Interesting.
Bracket at the end.
I'm still sharing the screen, right?
Yeah. What if you put a bracket at the end, Alessandro?
Yeah, but yeah.
He means parentheses, of course.
Yeah, close the bracket at the end. Okay. Because the chat excludes it from the link, from the hyperlink. You see,
It does, yes. I can see.
Okay,
see?
that's interesting. Yes.
That's-
Yeah.
yeah.
So you have to add that back manually.
Yeah.
Harriet's got it. Excellent.
Okay. Not my fault. Not my fault. Okay. Any more questions? Then I'm done.